Hello and welcome to the first SFWA Chat Hour. This is SFWA stands for the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. This is going to be a bi-weekly chance to talk to our staff, our officials, our volunteers, sometimes interested guests, and we'll get a chance for you to understand what SFWA is, what we do, and what we're continuing to do. I am the president of SFWA. I have been so for about a year. I was the vice president for a year before then, and I've got a year to go in my term, or basically a year and 1 month, not that I'm counting down. I have with me two other key folks to SFWA, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. The first is Kate Baker. Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Baker. I'm the Director of Operations for SFWA. I've been in the position for about 5 years now, and I handle a lot of the day-to-day operations of the organization. So if you have any questions or concerns that you'd like to bring to my attention, I can sort of filter them out to who is best to serve them. Send me a line at operations@sfwa.org.
Cool. And Maggie.
Hi, I'm Maggie Hogarth. I am your vice president and have been for, I guess, a year now and have just been reelected. So I guess I'm doing something right.
Well, and you're elected for 2 more years.
Oh.
So, right, so you're going to, not just a year, but 2 years. So you're in office for quite a while, at least. So we're good people to talk to if you have SFWA issues or comments. And one of the things that I'd like to do with these chats, which will happen every 2 weeks, is to have folks write in if you have questions. And you don't have to be a SFWA member to ask a question. Feel free. Ask us questions, though, that have to do with SFWA. Other stuff is probably not going to be quite as interesting or pertinent to the show. We may not invite them. So I thought we'd start off by talking about the Nebula Conference. We just had, 2 weekends ago, the Nebula Conference in Chicago at the fabulous Palmer House, which went from a Thursday to a Sunday. It's where we give the annual Nebula Awards as well as the Norton Award and present the SFWA Grandmaster Award and the Kate Wilhelm Solstice Award. This was, I think, the first Nebula ceremony where we had synchronized dancing. I'd like to be known as a SFWA president who first brought that to our ceremonies. But, of course, that couldn't have happened without Henry Lean, who wrote and choreographed it and organized the dancing. And he's supposed to have it up on YouTube. Does he have it up on YouTube yet? Do either of you know?
I'm not sure, but I think it's on its way.
Mm-hmm. It was lovely because everybody got all pepped up. It was like we sort of led with that. And, of course, we had John Hodgman as a Toastmaster. I thought that maybe we'd talk about kind of what some of our favorite moments from the Nebulas. For me, basically, it was a lot of people kept coming up and saying that stuff was going well. We had a lot of really interesting programming. We had a lot of programming that went all over the spectrum. And I had someone come up and talk about how it was their very first Nebula conference and how welcoming they felt it was, how lovely. I mean, they really enjoyed it and how they also felt it was useful. So, Maggie, what was your favorite moment or moments of the conference?
I guess for me it was, what I liked best about it was the strange serendipities that just cropped up all the time, where you just be doing something normal and finding yourself having lunch with like the person in charge of NPR books, and she has great nail polish. They were Kickstarter nail geek stuff on it. It was really cool. Anyway, so stuff like that just to happen out of the blue was really cool. That and watching all the Nebula winners tear up, because I'm like a sucker for a happy story. I like seeing people cry for happiness. And then I cry. And so those were the things that stuck with me, I guess.
That's Sarah Pinsker's acceptance speech. We have this ceremony called the Alternate Universe Acceptance Speeches that go on after the ceremony, and we'll have, I believe, have those up on YouTube too. But those are what people deliver kind of after the ceremonies in a sort of, I don't know, post-ceremony ceremony. And Sarah Pinsker had prepared her alternate universe speech, but one of the things that she wanted to mention was that she felt that right now was the best of all possible timelines for various reasons. And it was it was moving, right? I don't know. I was sitting there kind of with tears welling up in my eyes. I don't know about you guys. Kate, what about you? Were you crying? And then what was your favorite moment?
Well, I cried throughout the entire weekend, but not because of that. No, but the alternate universe speeches, Kelly Robson's and Martin Shoemaker's were fantastic, and they actually had me teared up a little bit. But my favorite aspects was that we took this. It was originally called the Nebula Weekend, and we sort of made it a little bit better, more career-focused. We had 3 tracks of programming based on career management, professional development, and expert knowledge. And we got to bring in some really awesome people to give some really great talks on how you can further your career in writing and if you're in the industry. But I also liked the volunteer breakfast that we had at the end, because this conference and everything involved in it wouldn't be here if it weren't for the fabulous volunteers. And a lot of the stuff that we do here at SFWA wouldn't be around without the fabulous volunteers. So to spend like a couple, it was an hour and a half, just talking with people, giving out certificates, saying thank you to them it was incredible. So.
It was really nice because it was also the last day of the con. It was Sunday, and it was still very well attended, despite the fact that we had 3 days of kind of a lot of it. I don't want to say like partying in the sort of classic college sense, but I will say writers often you find they like to drink, and so I think there was a substantial number of us who were wandering around wanting coffee very badly the next day. So yeah, the programming I thought was amazing. That was organized by Mary Robinette Cole, and I was on a number of panels where I thought those were great, but I also thought the panels with the as Maggie mentioned, the associates, right? The Kickstarter one. I went to the Kobo one, which had a lot of useful stuff, and I came away from it with kind of a game plan for putting a book up on Kobo and how to publicize it as well. And then I sort of secondhand, even from one of the the expert panels, Martin Shoemaker did one on dictation, because it turns out he dictates all of his stories. And I was listening to somebody, I asked somebody how it had gone, and they gave me a couple snippets from it, and one of them, if I had paid, if the whole weekend, if that had been the only thing I learned, it would have been worth everything for me, because it was really useful. So, cool. Did you guys, how much programming did you go to, and were there favorite panels? Kate, I don't know if you went to it. What?
Oh, well, unfortunately I was doing a lot of behind the scenes running around, so I didn't get to go to as many panels as I'd like to, but from what I heard, everybody had a blast and learned a lot of new things.
Maggie, you went to some, I know.
No, I didn't.
No, you just met with people. I know you and I were both meeting with people, no?
I guess for the whole weekend, what I was trying to do is make sure I met all the people that I invited and ask them how they were getting on and if they were enjoying themselves, or if there were things we could do better next time.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually attend any of the programming. I was just trying to meet with the people who were putting it on.
And next year we will be in exotic Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Right? So, Kate, do you have any details of that you want to share? Any
we're still in the works as far as details are concerned, but we do have, we're going to be putting up a registration form a lot earlier this year. We're looking at possibly within the next month at a substantial discount. So if you are interested, if you heard all the good buzz that's going around with this last one, we're already starting to plan the next one. So jump on it at the early rate. You won't be disappointed.
Maggie, how about you? Do you have things that you're looking forward to at the next Nebulas? I know there's some stuff that I want to try to get done. What do you want to try to make sure happens?
Oh, well, I like Pittsburgh. I've been there a few times for Anthropon, and they've always been super awesome. So I'm actually looking forward to the location. Maybe that sounds strange, but I think it's. But other than that, I hope to actually get to some of the programming. That would be nice. I'd like to actually sit in on some of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's, I think, the thing that we're trying to do with the Nebulas, in fact, maybe the thing that we've already succeeded, just to be incredibly cocky about it, is to establish it as sort of the conference for professional writers, right? Mm-hmm. The conference where you can come and you can make contacts that are genuinely useful to you, where you can come and hear presentations that are very much focused not on, you go to cons, and I love cons as much as the next person, but you go to a lot of panels where it's like, where do you get your ideas? Or, avoiding distraction as a writer, or, werewolves in fantasy literature. And those are fun. Often we've all been on those, but sometimes you want to come away feeling really energized, really inspired, and feeling like you really got useful stuff. Mm-hmm. Maggie, one of the things I wanted you to talk a little bit about, because of all those partners, right, the Amazon and the Patreon and Kobo and all of those folks, that's primarily your effort. You're the one, as you can tell, I live in the city. But to talk a little bit about, what we're going to be doing, right, how we are partnering with them in order to try and benefit our members.
Okay, well, this is very cool, because everyone I've reached out to has been very excited about this, and a surprising number of them are extreme science fiction and fantasy fans, so it's really cool to see them get excited about having a chance to work with us the way we are excited to work with them. But what we're hoping to do is to build a team to manage all the partnerships that we are now being invited to pursue as a more regular effort. Allow me to be here.
I'm sorry, I'm going to mute. Sorry about that.
So we have offers from most of them to have a more regular, ongoing discussion, so that we can figure out things like feature requests that a lot of our authors would really like on things like Patreon. Ways to improve our Kickstarter projects based on things our Kickstarter rep has seen work. BookBub would like to tell us the kind of stuff that hasn't been working for them when we submit things to them. We have ACX wanted us to send them a list of things that we dislike in their contracts, which I think was pretty amazing. They, of course, don't know what they'll be able to do about it, but I thought it was very cool that they offered. And several Amazon, Draft2Digital, Kobo, all of them offered educational things that we can use as part of our educational initiative for things like how do you get selected for an Apple First in the Series promotion, and what kind of things help your Kindle Select promotions work better. So, oh, and NaNoWriMo would also like to work with us on doing like celebratory things like the anniversary for Frankenstein. They really wanted to do something with us for that. So I think there's a lot of really cool stuff coming up that we just, there's so much of it that we need lots of people to help us, and that would involve being part of the team and being willing to talk with these people, like talk, phone, or video, once a month to tell them what our authors are thinking about or worried about or excited about, and getting back from them things they'd like to know or help us with. So I'm really hoping that we get some people to join us in that effort, because I think strengthening our partnerships and giving our members a way to reach all those people would be a significant benefit for them. So I think that's an exciting thing that's opening up now. And so yeah, if you're interested in volunteering.
Well, that's, yeah, and just to kind of unpack that a little for like perhaps like the traditionally published authors who aren't as familiar with some of the marketing stuff, BookBub is a newsletter that sells a lot of free books. In fact, it goes out and has listings for it, and you can advertise with them, but they only have one slot per genre per day. So they're being very selective. They're getting, Maggie, did they say, how many did they say per slot? Like, how many are they sorting through?
Over 125 a day.
Okay. So over 125, and because they're getting so many, they are rejecting them kind of, you know, boom, you know, you're in or you're out, and they're not giving them feedback. But they've offered to give our members feedback on why their campaigns are getting rejected, which is, I think, one of the things that's really handy. I mean, and that's sort of, I don't know any other place you can get something like that, which I think is kind of cool. I'm very proud of what we've been doing. And one of the nice things about this hour is I get to just chat away about all of it. But Kate, you've got some stuff coming down the pike. What are you looking forward to SFWA doing in 2016?
Oh goodness, way to put me on the spot there. So we are going to be doing a lot of the planning for the NEBs, as we previously discussed, and then we are going to ALA in June. So if you are a SFWA member, or if you are not a SFWA member but would like to give us some promotional stuff to send to us so that we can put on our table, we will happily do that for you. That is, I think, June 24th through the 28th in Orlando. We will be putting out a call for promotional materials and volunteers. And then we have Worldcon coming up, where we will have a SFWA suite and a SFWA table. The table will be used for signings and to give information SFWA related to anybody who's coming by or who would like to chat to any of the members or the volunteers that are staffing the table. And then, as usual, the SFWA suite will be the place to go wherever you need to quiet space in the days, to chatting with your fellow writers and peers in the evenings. And I believe that is all for the calendar year at this point.
Well, and there's food at the
yes, the food is the important part.
Which I will. Well, honestly, you know, for a lot of folks when they come to the con, you know, honestly, sometimes they're cutting corners, and being able to go up to the SFWA suite and get a coffee rather than going down to the Starbucks and you know, dropping $10 is you know.
Yeah, get a coffee, talk to your favorite author, or you know, strike up a conversation with somebody that you want to call a friend, and see where it goes from there.
And that is one of the nice things is I at many cons I've been at the SFWA suite, and the older, more established writers are very good about kind of hanging out and just chatting, because they're there, right? They're meeting friends that they haven't seen for a long time, and they will sit there and swap stories. And it's illuminating and wonderful to listen to them. Just go at the Nebulas. C.J. Cherry spent a lot of time in the suite and was very nice about kind of hanging out and just talking about so much history, right? Because she's got decades and decades of history in the genre. And my God, you know, where else are you going to get that sort of thing? It was really cool. I thought that was nifty. But I just like it. C.J. Cherry, every time I ran into her, it's just like all I could do to sort of stop fangirl squealing helplessly, because it's like, oh my God, Carolyn, But she was lovely, and to her partner, Jane Fancher, had a wonderful little, it was awesome, a little doll. Did you guys see the tiny Bren doll?
Yes.
It was, Bren from the Foreigner series, so dressed all white because of the pod heat, and it just and with his little braid, and it was just absolutely charming. And so we all got to get photographed with Tiny Bren, which I thought was awesome. So it was very cool. Yeah, so I've never been to the ALA. You know, Kate, tell us why someone would want to be there.
Well, SFWA is going to be there, so we can spread all about our Speakers Bureau. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Speakers Bureau, it's speakers.sfwa.org, where you can go, and if you are a convention or a library or a university or representing that type of organization, you can find one of our members to come and talk. You can search by location. You can look by what job you hold in the industry. So if you're looking for an author or an editor to come speak, or a publisher, it's an invaluable resource, and we're really going to be talking that up to the librarians who attend and the bloggers that attend ALA. Now, if you want to go to ALA as a member or just somebody who's interested in it, it's a great place to see what books are coming out from the publishers that will be there representing their authors. And there's some other organizations I think that attend as well. I want to say please do not quote me on this, the romance writers, the horror writers, mystery writers tend to have a presence there. This is the big one because ALA usually has 2 meetings a year. One is the midwinter, which tends to be smaller, but this one, which is their yearly, it tends to be at the size of BEA, which is Books Expo America, but I find it's a lot more intimate than Book Expo America was, and I think that's probably because of the people who are attending, which are university, young adults, librarians, middle school, elementary, all the way up through college level. So.
Okay, cool. And that's well, I haven't been there. I have been to the Baltimore Book Festival, which will also have a presence at this year, which is in downtown Baltimore, which is always fun to visit, right? Because Baltimore is just a lovely, lovely city.
It's in a great location as well.
It's so nice. It's kind of down near the Inner Harbor. But there's a lot of readers coming through. There's a lot of folks coming through that they want to meet authors and they want to buy a book and get it signed by the author. And so there's a lot of folks coming through, which is, it's nice. I'm trying to think what else we had. That's so in terms of what I've got coming down the pike. One thing that I wanted to mention that I can take no credit for whatsoever is the SFWA Bulletin is going to have a lot of good stuff. And if you may see, this was the issue that we had at the Nebula Awards. And one of the cool things about it, I don't know, for those of you that were at both cons or both Nebulas and kept your badges, you can put the badges together, and they actually put this whole show this whole graphic, which they're
so pretty.
They're nifty. But the SFWA Bulletin has, I think, a lot of interesting content that's coming out. Neil Clark, who runs Clark's World, has been making it more useful, I think, kind of really trying to steer it in a way that makes it handy to genre writers. And, for example, the Writing Professionals column, where it's basically each time somebody who's a kind of a high-level professional in a very specialized field talks about what it's like and sort of the specialized knowledge of that. It's just, they're fun. It's nice.
If I can just expand on that, too. You get when you're a SFWA member, you get the bulletin as a perk of membership, but there is this common misconception that you can't get the bulletin outside of being a member, which is false. If you go to our website, sfwa.org/bulletin, you can grab a copy. It just takes an email. We will send you either a physical copy if we've got it in stock, or we've got e-editions as well. And we've also just worked out something with Waitlist Books where you can get a subscription if you aren't a SFWA member. So go check that out because there's such amazing stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah. And one of the changes that I think has been really useful is, and I'm going to complain about past issues here, is that sometimes in the past the bulletin has come out and there's been market news in it, and through no fault of anyone other than sort of weird confluences, sometimes that market news has been so out of date, right, that you read the market call and you're like, oh, that sounds awesome, right? The story starts sparking, or I'm going to go send this, and then you go look at the deadline, it's like, oh, that was 2 weeks ago, and then you're sad. So one of the things that we've done is taken that market report. It's still available. But you don't even need the bulletin for it now. It now appears on the SFWA blog. So, in fact, in 2 days, right, if I read my calendar correctly, the new one will go up, I believe. And it's still Cynthia Ward. And if you are interested in market reports, if you're somebody who's very prolific or somebody who does a lot of reprints or, somebody who just, I will sell a story if it kills me, well, Cynthia's newsletter is worth subscribing to because it gives you advice in greater detail about those markets. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too that we're going to try to do as well is a lot of the popular content that's highly talked about. We'll make an effort to put it on our own blog so that it's disseminated, through all of the media. So Twitter, Facebook, our blog. So I believe John Joseph Adams, we just published his titling article, which a lot of people found really fascinating and helpful.
Yeah, I was just seeing a lot of notice on Twitter. People were mentioning it. It's called Zen.
Zen and the Art of Titling.
Yeah, the Zen and the Art of Short Fiction Titling. You got to get that title correctly. And I keep wanting to say Zen and, so yeah. But yeah, no, that's really useful. And and of course, because he is an editor and because he's he's edited so much, he really is sort of he knows titles and kind of knows what will grab people.
Also, cartoons.
What?
I said also cartoons.
Oh, that's right. That's right. This issue has honey badgers. In fact, I'm going to hold one up just because I love the SFWA honey badgers. For people who aren't familiar with these came out of the SFWA forums. I don't remember how it started. Ursula Vernon and Maggie started drawing dramatic badger and comedic badger. And so one of the kind of fun things about this issue is there's an ongoing series where they've lost the Nebula Award trophies, or rather had them confiscated by TSA, and sort of what happens as a result. And I love the SFWA honey badgers. I still think we need to do a T-shirt at some point with the badgers.
You know, I think collaborating with Ursula is one of the most humorous things I have ever done in my life. Because
she's so funny.
Because we write those cartoons together, and it always starts with, well, what should we make this one about? And she'll send out this idea, and it will be practically pitch perfect, but then I'm really bad at following directions. So she'll draw the first one, or I'll draw the first one, and then one of us will draw the next one, and then we have to figure out the last one, which we draw together to do the punchline. And it always works somehow, but it has some of that kind of tumble-down humor that you don't know if it's going to work until you get there.
Well, I mean, isn't that one of the joys of collaboration, is that sort of breathless tumbling down the hill and gathering energy as you go, and maybe you're going to roll in the right direction, and maybe you're going to, hit a tree and everything's going to go horribly amiss. But most of the time, the trees are illusory, or you manage to avoid them.
Yes, and I do not think people realize that I draw one, she draws the next one, and then we both draw the last one. Like, we'll draw our character in the last one and put it together. So my joke is trying to see how long it takes for people to tell the different art styles.
Oh, that's interesting, because I don't think of them as having different art styles. I think of them as so seamless. And now I'm sorry, I shouldn't get distracted and start looking at my SFWA book. Oh, it's SFWA bulletin. It's endlessly engaging.
Small tree.
I wanted to pull up I'm going to screen share for a second and show folks the SFWA Speakers Bureau that Kate was talking about. So there it is. It's speakers.sifwa.
Oh, I'm just getting a black screen. Oh, there it is. All right.
There we go. Okay.
We're good.
So speakers.sifwa.org, and as you can see, you can search on a lot of the types and lengths of events, including, do people want to are they willing to do multi-authors? Will they do, things for no fee? Like some of us will do things for no fee if it's a worthy cause. And then we've got, pleasingly, 168 folks listed right now. And as you can see, there is a ton of wonderful folks, including Ms. Baker.
Hi.
Okay, I'm going to stop before Kate gets to
Actually, the website thing brought up a new thing. Is we have resurrected the Neb site again with the help of Michael Capobianco and Aaron Hartshorn. This was a project conceptualized by James Gates and worked on by numerous volunteers, including Cat. And we were able to. It's going out in beta to all of our to all of our members, but it's going to be a comprehensive, searchable database of the Nebula Awards, the history behind them, who's won the awards, the conferences, the Toastmasters, great bios and write-ups on our Grandmasters. So once we have that up and running for the general public to consume, we will send out an email and make a big announcement and have fun with it, because it's super awesome.
It's very cool. I mean, and one of the things that we tried to do is find some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, or at least kind of the context. So Locus allowed us to have write-ups, right? All the write-ups that they had done each year, and then I know I scanned in a bunch of bulletin stuff. We tried to. I mean, just there's a lot of, and part of the reason this has taken so long is just that there's so much material there.
Information,
right? Yeah. The nebulas have been going on forever, or not forever, but a long time.
50 years is a long time.
Right.
But no, this is something that's going to be ever evolving and changing, and we're going to need volunteers to help with inputting new material, updating winner lists. If anybody stumbles across things that we can use with proper permissions, we're going to be, including that stuff as well.
And when it comes up, if you are a Nebula or Norton or whatever, a nominee or winner, please go look at your entry, because that's supposed to include links to your social media, hopefully like important essays or reviews or whatever, stuff that will help. Let's say you're a kid, right, or a student who's writing an essay about you or an essay about that particular story or whatever. What would you want them to be able to find on that page, and then mail it to us, and we will get it up there, because you are the one with the most invested. So don't get ridiculous, right? If you send us 100 links, we reserve the right to pick and choose, but do help us flesh that out if you can. Yeah, that's a really cool thing. That's another one of the things that it's been in the works a long time, right?
But we're almost there. It's a good thing.
We're almost there. Hurrah!
Yay. And one of the missions of SFWA is to promote our members. And for those nominees and for those winners, specifically with the site, there'll be links to buy the books and links to the magazines that you were in for that particular story. So, I mean, this is a wonderful tool for members and non-members alike of the industry.
Right. It's something that helps us fulfill the mission of promoting science fiction and fantasy, right?
Absolutely.
Giving people resources. Maggie's excited about it too, right, Maggie? I felt like you've been silent too long. Quick, bring Maggie in.
Yeah, I'll go like this.
Well, we're kind of sad because our CFO, Bud Sparhawk, was supposed to join us. And Bud, if you're out there frantically clicking around, dude, I tried to help you, to troubleshoot.
Okay, well, I am
how Google Hangouts work. What?
I am super excited about something we haven't mentioned, which is that we allowed game writers to qualify, and that we are now in the process of passing the language that gives the qualifications for them to join, and we're working on developing an award to recognize excellent science fiction and fantasy writing in games. So I think that's a very exciting effort, and I'm hoping people will want to participate in the founding years of game writers joining us. So I think that's pretty cool.
It is, and one of the nice things about it is when we let in the indie people, right, it took us a little while, right? We had the vote, and then it took a while to kind of hammer out the criteria. And this time we had the criteria ready and waiting to go, right? So we got back from the Nebulas, and immediately the board member who's been driving that effort, Matthew Johnson, said, here's the vote, let's go. And so it's being voted on right now, and I expect the press release, to be able to come out sometime in the next 2 weeks at the very latest. Well, and Bud is just back from Balticon, so I was kind of hoping to have a report of Balticon, because it sounds like it was a lot of fun, right? They had
that was their big one. They invited all their previous guest of honors, I guess.
Yeah, all of them, and so there's a great photo of all of them standing up in a row, and it was just like, wow, including George R.R. Martin, who I guess talked about the Game of Thrones TV series and called it fan fiction. I thought was an interesting. I mean, if I read my gleaning of the internet news, if that is correct from Twitter this morning, which I thought was an interesting approach, right? But certainly the two have diverged, right? That's we know that they're both riding in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
But see, here's the thing: like, is he watching it?
Oh,
You know,
he has to be.
He has to be.
Yeah.
But can't, I mean, that's got to influence you, right? You'd be like, oh, you know, that's a good idea, or, you know, like you said, or even, you know, even I can't use that now. They've used it, and
Well, one of the things I actually, I'm not going to talk too long on this, but there was a major spoiler last week, and it made its round on the internet. But I guess the creators went to George R. R. Martin and were, you know, trying to get as much information out of him as possible so that they could bring the series forward. And this particular character, the character arc, George had known from book 1.
wow.
So it wasn't like a last-minute thing where, you know, it sort of evolved, because I know George is, I want to say he's a pantser sometimes, and he's a gardener sometimes.
Yeah.
But he had that arc already in mind, and I think that makes it a little bit more terrifying and sad at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to give anything away. You're going to have to go watch the series.
I'm going to talk to you later, and you can.
Okay.
But we are all watching Game of Thrones, I think, with
No, we're not.
Oh, you're not? Oh, you're not, because you don't like the bloodiness, right? The kind of randomness and darkness, or
It's too grimdark for me.
too grimdark for you. That's fair enough.
I need more unicorns.
So do you have a TV show that you like that is more unicorny? This is not on the list of questions. I sent them ahead of time, right? You know.
Oh, no, this is me ahead of time. Well, I'm trying to think, and we're not really watching anything very unicorny right now, so unfortunately, no. Except My Little Pony. So.
Well, My Little Pony, but yeah. Who's not? Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything I'm watching that is. No, it's all pretty dark, unfortunately. So, Kate, are you watching anything lighthearted? Are you?
Oh no, I go through all the dark stuff.
Go through the dark stuff.
Yeah.
I did start watching Once Upon a Time as a kind of like one of those binge watches, and got like I think 2.5 seasons in, and then just something happened, and I was just like, oh, I've been derailed. That train has departed without me. And I know what it was. Is I wanted to get to the season where they were doing Frozen, right? Where it was kind of clearly like they had taken Frozen, because I did like Frozen, and so I wanted to get to that, but I felt like I had to invest the time to get through all those story arcs.
I think actually you could probably just go to the Frozen season. Yeah, I watched that show and they lost me, I think, on season 3, but I started watching again. So.
Okay.
But.
All right. Well, speaking of media, Kate. Some of us are aware of your upcoming media, not appearance, but sort of appearance. Tell us about it. Tell our viewers about it.
Okay, so a couple months ago, there is a company out there called M.C.A, and they work with a celebrity and a charity, and they put together these really awesome charitable contributions. They solicit donations from lots of social media platforms. They're going after the demographic that lives online to contribute to really great causes. So I saw one that they were doing with Chris Pratt in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where for a small donation you can pick anyone you'd like. I think for as little as $10 all the way up to thousands. You could donate some money to the Boys and Girls Club of Lake Stevens, Washington, which is where Chris Pratt grew up, or it's at least his hometown. And they were raising funds to build a new building for the youth of that particular club. So I was like, hey, why not? It's a great cause. I'm a single mom of 2 kids, and I know it's incredibly important to have a space to go to after school where they can feel welcomed and engaged and understood. So I donated, and one of the cool things about M.C.A is that one person usually has an opportunity out of a random drawing to win a huge grand prize for participating. And I got a call actually as the nebulas were beginning that I was the winner of this particular grand prize. So I actually leaving tomorrow to fly down to Atlanta, and I get to tour the Guardians of the Galaxy set with my two daughters, and I get to have lunch and meet Chris Pratt and possibly other cast members. So I've been living Chris Pratt for about, what, 2.5 weeks now. And it's been sort of walking on air, and I'm sort of pinching myself, you know, kind of like when the Red Sox won the World Series after how many years, and I was like, did that really happen? I think that really happened. And then it hit me, and it's like, yeah, it really happened, and you're really going. So I'm speechless. I'm excited, and you know, it's kind of neat because of the field that I'm in. You know, I have that awesome connection to science fiction and fantasy. So.
Oh, that's so cool. And for people that haven't seen it, there is a YouTube video that Ome's put up that's of them telling Kate, right? So they kind of they lure her along, like, hey, tell us about why you entered. And like,
I had no idea, yeah. And I was like,
it's so sweet. I get weepy every time I see it because it's adorable. It's adorable. You're just so clearly so happy. You go, what?
Yeah. Yeah, the cool thing, if I can just share really quickly, so I was only allowed to bring one person with me, and I picked my older daughter because she's a huge Marvel fan. But I talked with my younger daughter about it, and they found out that, you know, she had graciously given up her spot, and they called me on Friday and said that I could take the younger one as well. So we told her yesterday, and she was like, she was over the moon, happy about it. It was pretty cool. Yeah,
that's a new recall. I didn't know.
Yeah, that's so it's going to be a great. It's going to be a one-of-a-kind lifetime experience.
Yeah. Well, you have my full permission to say to Chris Pratt, hey, did you want a Toastmaster?
I think I'm going to show up with a list and be like, yeah, so-and-so says hi, so-and-so says, you know, this thing, and then, hey, would you like to Toastmaster for us?
Well, we did. This year we had John Hodgman, right, who was just delightful, and one of the things that was really fun about him was I was really touched by this. He had gone and read an unspecified number of the nominees, right? But he clearly had read it, you know, at least some of the stories, and I thought that, and he'd gone and done some research, and he, you know, in his speech he referenced Spanish stuff, and, you know, he referenced George R.R. Martin, who in fact was how we got him as a Toastmaster. Was George very kindly reached out to him.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George. That's very nice. But that's the sort of thing we want to do, right? You know, at the Nebulas, we just want to make them super special. We want to make them really cool, and I think that was fun. And Hodgman showed up for the mass autographing, which is something that we do on Friday nights at the Nebulas. And this year we had 86 authors there, 86 different authors there, and signing books. And, you know, that's when we give all the nominees a certificate that says, you know, you're a nominee, because just being a nominee is pretty cool, right? You don't have to just have to do that.
And one of the other cool things that we had at the ceremony, too, because I love this moment and I forgot about it when we talked about it in the beginning, was we had two cosplayers who stood near the trophies. One was Boba Fett, but he's okay, so there's a story behind this. Yes, he wasn't Boba Fett because he was coming up the stairs preparing for it, and I said, hey, Boba, because he looks like Boba Fett. And he's like, not Boba. And I said, okay, Jango Fett? He's like, not Jango. And I'm like, okay, I'm lost. He's like, I'm cosplaying from a comic book of a person who cosplayed as Boba Fett. And I was like, wow, that's some Inception stuff right there. And then we also had, the name escapes me, I know her name was Jennifer, but she was the Klingon. Yes, and she sings, and there's a great YouTube video of her, and I know, Kat, you know who it is.
I know who it is because I made everyone watch this at the board meeting.
And it was fantastic.
It's someone, they're singing Sixpence None Richer's Kiss Me in Klingon. And it's just, it's very catchy, right? It's because it's always a catchy tune, but it's also fun to see how it translates into things like throw the bones of your enemies at me.
I love this genre so much.
Well, when this goes up on YouTube, I've got a volunteer to help transcribe it, and I'll try to stick in the links for stuff that we've mentioned, including when we have a link for the registration for the nebulas next year. Okay. So I'm looking at the time. We have about 15 minutes left, and I wanted to kind of, I think we're kind of out of SFWA stuff. Is there anything kind of SFWA related that you want to talk about? Because I'm going to move on to kind of stuff that we've read lately, or things that we want to, I don't know, talk about Memorial Day and that sort of thing. We're into that informal 15 minutes in which anything could happen. Again, because we're lacking Bud Sparhawk.
Thanks, Bud.
If you're watching this, you let the team down.
Face of shame.
Face of shame. Face of shame. Well, actually, we shouldn't do that because then he'll be sad. He'll be genuinely sad. So, Bud, okay, Bud, it was a joke. It was a joke.
We love you, Bud.
We love you, Bud, but we do want you to feel bad for like 30 seconds up until that point. You should have shown up. So next, I promise that in the next 2 weeks, either Bud Sparhawk will be here, or we will engage in more of this haranguing. And it will, we'll step up the level sort of geometrically. So
there
again,
will be mustaches and hats.
Well, through the wonders of Google Hangouts, one can have things like antlers and crowns and mustaches. Some of them seasonal, some just silly. So I wanted to mention, one of the things I wanted to talk about is kind of stuff that we've read lately that we enjoyed, and I actually pulled 3 things out of the Nebula book bag. Because the Nebula book bag this year was so crammed full of stuff, and they also, I think I Facebooked, there were like 3 different book tables we could go and swap. So these were 3 of the things that I picked up, and I'll just pull them down. Mal Pete's The Murdstone Trilogy it's a really funny, it's about a writer, and sometimes one is like, oh, a book about a writer written by a writer. But it's really funny, and it spoofs a lot of kind of epic fantasy and points a certain slight fun at Aragon for one. But basically, I think it's cute. It's very cute. The second is V.E. Schwab's Gathering of Shadows, right, which is the sequel to A Shade of Night. And I enjoyed, I liked V.E. Schwab's superhero stuff, so I was worried that when I started reading the fantasy I wouldn't like it, but I like the fantasy as much as I like the superhero stuff, so I praise that highly. But it's a second book, so don't start with A Gathering of Shadows, start with A Darker Shade of Magic. And it's fantasy, it's not science fiction. And the third is, this is a kid's book that I'm actually passing along to my godkids, and I think it's adorable. It's Rutabaga the Adventure Chef. And I think it's adorable. It's like at Feasts of Fury, this is book number 2. And one of the things that I like about it is it comes with recipes, right? And some of them are silly, and some of them are actually edible. But it's adorable, right? It's kind of a pretty. And one of the reasons that I like it is also because it's got my youngest godson has been having some difficulty reading, right? So they're trying to encourage him to read as much as possible. So here's a little boy chef with comic book qualities. I think he'll love that. So, how about you, Kate? What do you have that you've read lately that you like?
Well, I haven't read anything lately because I was doing the Nebs, but you mentioned the Nebula book bag, which, if I may plug the Nebula weekend / conference, thanks to Terry LeMay and Stephen H. Silver, the book bag alone was worth your membership fee because the amount of books, I think everybody got maybe 14, 15 books a piece. I mean, it was packed to the gills. And I did pick up some that once everything sort of dies down a little bit, I'm going to read, and one was The United States of Japan by Peter Tieres, I want to say is the last name. I heard a lot of good buzz about that one. I also got All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders.
Yeah,
I can't wait to read that one. And then I also have the Everything box by Richard Qadri. So I've been a fan of his work, and that one looks very, very cool as well. So one of the things we actually did this year was we got a lot of YA and middle grade stuff So we're representing all ages in the book bag this year, which is fantastic.
That's
So,
really nice. How about you, Maggie? What have you read lately?
Well,
or
I do not
want
have
to read?
book covers.
Ooh.
Nope. I'm sorry. Well, I backed last month's SFWA Star project on Kickstarter, which was book 4 of an epic fantasy about griffins. So I reread book 1, 2, and 3 so that I would be ready for book 4, which is coming on Monday. That's Jess Owen's Song of the Summer King, and it is fantastic. If you read Birth of the Firebringer when you were younger by Meredith Ann Pierce, it's the same sort of like, you know, homecoming of a great king of a well, talking animals, and like Tail Chaser's song as well. So I read that.
Is it Griffins?
Griffins.
Griffins.
There are dragons too, and wolves. If you like wolves, and eagles. I think that's everything. And I guess I'm doing a lot of rereading because a lot of authors are dropping new books in series that I'm happy about. Like David Weber is coming out with his new Safehold book in November, so I'm rereading all of Safehold, which, since each book is like 800 pages, taking a while. And I'm also reading some stuff in romance because I'm really intrigued by this new, well, quasi-new thing in romance where they're actually, romance publishers are marketing series as romances that have the structures of urban fantasies. So book 1 will have the traditional structure where you have the romance structure where you have boy meets girl or boy meets boy or girl meets girl, whatever. So they meet and then they do the romance thing and then they decide to stay together. But then books 2 on will be fighting monsters of the week or whatever, and it has an urban fantasy structure. But they're still being put out by romance publishers and they're still being marketed as romances.
So like the later books don't have like any romantic subplot? There's no like, oh, she's losing interest in me, or
there's like misunderstanding stuff, and there's, you know, behind closed doors stuff, but the, you know, see each other, fall for each other, have misunderstanding, fix misunderstanding, and then get together is not there. So it's, you know, I'm looking at these people and thinking, these are our people. We need to come welcome them. Yeah. And they're writing good books. They're just urban fantasies that are being published by romance publishers. Really cool. So I picked up Hexbreakers by Gordon Hawk, who writes a lot of books like that. And that's turning out pretty well. So that's what I've been reading lately.
There's a certain joy to going back to long series and just going through them. I did that with Cherry in preparation for the Nebulas, and I read through all the Foreigner stuff, and I was delighted because like I'd read a bunch of it, and then I came back to it, and I was like, oh my God, she's written 3 new books in the series, and then all the Morgaine stuff, which just is so good. She's just, and there's an art form to that recapping. Right, which you know, it's very evident when you're reading, kind of binge reading like that. But that first chapter, which is kind of like, as you know, Bob, up until this point, these things have happened. Actually, I'm rereading Robin Hobbs, all of her like the 5th Chivalry books. I've been working through those, and she does a lot of interesting stuff to bring readers up to speed. A lot of times, what she's doing is she puts in historical documents that are kind of, they're headers to chapters, but they reference stuff that happened in earlier books, and so it kind of recaps it. I don't know, it's interesting to look at. And the nice thing about rereading is you can look at it sometimes with a writer's eye and be like, oh, you know, often with a, how will I use that? What a handy technique. So what are folks working on? Like, Kate, what are you working on right now besides recovering from the nebulas and getting
SFWA?
ready? Besides SFWA, there is stuff outside SFWA in your life.
There is stuff, yeah. So I am the podcast director / narrator / nonfiction editor for Clarkesworld magazine, and I'm always working on podcasts. Seems like Neil is always upping the word count. So it's like a perpetual thing. When I'm not doing SFWA stuff, I'm doing Clarksville stuff. And when I'm doing Clarksville stuff, I'm doing everything else. So yeah, it's an awesome job. But we're getting ready for the June 1st issue. So right now, which is fun. That's how I spent my Memorial Day weekend.
Well, that's not a bad way to spend it. And I will say every time, one of the things I like about getting published in Clark's World is every time it happens, being read by Kate, because Kate's a good podcaster.
Thank you.
Well, it's nice.
That's so surreal. Like, anybody who says that, I'm like, oh, God.
Well, you managed to get the emotion in it without getting too cheesy.
Thank you.
And I have been accused of being emotionally manipulative in my stories, so I like somebody who can manage to convey it. Yeah, Maggie's like, oh, what? So what are you working on, Maggie? Are you working on any emotionally manipulative stuff?
Not as emotionally manipulative cliffhanger to Beasts of Tibet. That was painful, woman. Well, let's see. I have a book coming out next month. And then I have one coming out in November, and then I have to write one for summer, autumn. So I'm
Wow.
No, I do four novels a year, at least. But I am excited because the next one is the sequel to the romance that got put on the long list. So I'm excited about rebranding that with the, wow, I was on the Tiffany long list.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Plus, it's got sea serpents in it, and it is an asexual / male romance. So I'm looking forward to doing something that's, it's fun to do the sexy stuff, but after a while you're like, you know what, the other half would like something a little less steamy. People who are like cats and like, you know what, you can pet me a little and then go away, and don't slobber on me, and like that. You need romance too. So.
Are you doing Kickstarters with any of those? Because you're our Kickstarter expert, right? You've written a book on the subject, and
I'm planning a Kickstarter for a plush dragon from one of my books because I want a plush dragon from one of my books. So I was planning her as a prize for one of my other Kickstarters, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Just make the point of the Kickstarter the doll, huggable doll.
Take my money.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. That was the Kickstarter that you mentioned earlier, Jess's. I mean, she had a plushy griffin, and I was just, and I'm trying to be frugal, right? I'm trying to be good. I'm trying not to spend a lot of money, and there I am, of course. And that's the problem with the fact that we support Kickstarter, because like the committee's like, well, let's look at these three, and I'm like, oh, Kickstarter, and I start drifting towards it. I'm like, oh, plushy griffin, oh, and then I have to.
I failed my role versus plush griffin.
Yeah,
I had to get one.
This is the wrong industry to try to save money because, oh my God, if it's not books or plush related to books, I'm like, okay, here, just take my paycheck. It's okay.
Well, and it's weird because like these things cloud your mind, right? You see them like particularly Comic Cons. I've noticed this, right? And you go in through the booth and you're just like, like here to pull up an example. You're like, oh, plushy summer Cthulhu. I need this, right? And you're just look. He's got he or she has a tiny Hawaiian shirt on, which is just adorable, and a little hat. And so, and so it clouds your mind, and then you just then you get home, and what do I do with this now, right? Aside from being like, I'll get a backdrop for our podcast, and that will be intriguing.
Yeah. So it's just I have no money left.
Yeah. So this is a necessary part of science fiction. Actually, I'm going to try and conclude by bringing this to something that actually is interesting and relevant to writers rather than just sort of descending into comparison.
Chaos?
So I was at the Kevin J. Anderson does a wonderful series called Superstars, and Dave Farland talked about merchandising. And one of the things he mentioned about publishing is don't overlook stuff like the plushy toys or the game coins or the, just the sort of stuff that ties in, because that's your property too. And just to bring it back to SFWA, one of the things that I would suggest to writers when you're looking at contracts for properties like that is go and look at the SFWA model contracts and make sure that you are not signing away rights that you should be signing away. If you have questions about a contract, go to our Writer Beware site, and you will find lots there. And we're running rapidly out of time. If you have questions, if you have feedback, if you have stuff you want to see on the next SFWA Chat Hour, mail it to us and let us know. And I hope to have this up soon. Ladies, anything else you want to say before we go?
No, I'm good.
Goodbye. Hail SFWA.